In the spring of 2024, my son was born, and the two of us both contracted a life-threatening case of sepsis. We were both hospitalized for about a month, and when we finally got to move back home after our extended stay at the hospital, it was really challenging for me to get back into our family budget. Not only did I have a newborn to take care of, but I also had my two foster daughters who were just finishing their last semester of school and then rolling into summer break. So life got even more challenging. And speaking of busy and challenging, being a mama and a YouTube creator can be very challenging. I currently have my little baby down here on the floor, which I'm sure you can hear. I'm also pressed for time as my husband and other foster daughter are on their way home before we get to, I need to start dinner and everything. And also I planned to record this earlier in the day, and so bear with me as the light is just streaming through my window all crazy. But just to say, life is challenging, life is busy. But being a good steward isn't something that you and I can just turn on and off. Of course, there are times where managing a budget is going to fall to the end of our priority list. But if we want to be excellent stewards for the glory of God, we need to learn how to keep up with our budget even when life gets busy. So despite the challenges of a busy life, such as welcoming a new baby into the world and trying to manage a couple other kids in the home, effective budgeting can be achieved when we choose to be intentional about our finances. In this video, I'll share with you how we were able to achieve this, and I'll also give you the inside scoop on the mistakes that I made with continuing to budget with a busy life as well. And just a quick note, this video is intended to help those who already have a budget set up. And if you are looking for guidance on actually getting your first budget set up, I recommend checking out one of my budgeting videos listed in the description box below, or better yet, I'd love to invite you to come join me at one of my free monthly gospel-centered budgeting workshops to learn exactly how to create a household budget that is faith-focused and also helps you manage all of your financial responsibilities. You can sign up for that totally for free in the description box below as well. So tip number 1 to continuously budgeting with a busy life is to make money tracking easy. Tracking your money is probably the most important part of budgeting in order to make sure you are actually staying up with your expense goals. Tracking is simply accounting for all of your income and expenses in one place. Bless you. That way you can tally up all of your transactions to see if you are actually sticking to your budget goals each month. Budgeting can definitely be done using pen and paper, and I know that some of you may actually prefer this method. So if that's you, you can grab my free budget planner printout to use, and there's a link for it in the description box below. So I know that you can definitely do it that way. For me, I actually prefer a digital option. I can keep it on my phone, which is usually always with me. I don't actually know where it is right now. But typically when I'm leaving the house, my phone is something that I always remember. I actually use a combination of spreadsheets and budgeting apps. I use Google Sheets for my own budgeting and can easily pull up my budget from Google Sheets, like the Google Sheets app. But I also use a few budgeting apps in order to help me with my spreadsheets by pulling all of my transactions from different accounts and credit cards into one place. But when I actually am out and about and checking my budget, what I'm checking is my budget spreadsheets. So what I do is I actually take the time to transpose all the data from the budgeting apps into my spreadsheets. I've been doing this for years, and I really like having my own data in the palm of my hands versus using a budgeting app solely, because if I were to ever end a membership to one of those budgeting apps, then I would lose all of the data from the years past. The other reason I actually really like using spreadsheets is because I have kind of more of a personal connection to all of my financial transactions, as I have to actually go in and input each of the transactions, and then I have to remember and think through exactly where I spent my money and where that money came in from. And so budgeting apps can be nice because they sort of take away your thinking and need to like go and input things. So if you're looking for just the bare bones, super easy, especially when you're really busy, I recommend using just a budgeting app, because then you can kind of just like sift through and see all of your expenses and income in one place. But if you're looking for more of a tangible hands-on experience, I recommend also using budget spreadsheets like I do. So if you are someone who prefers using a budgeting app and you don't already use one, I will drop a couple links to some of the apps that I recommend to my students and clients. And I'll also share the link to my exact budgeting spreadsheets that I use for our budgeting there as well. Tip number 2 is to set budget meetings for yourself. Without consistency, your budget is doomed to fail. So how do we build up consistency? Simply schedule out your own budget meetings. Literally, like put it on your calendar, however you keep a calendar, and put on there like budget meeting for yourself once a week to go and update your budget. Now, if you're using pen and paper, this typically means that you need to physically write out all of the money that you earned that week and all the money that you spent the past week. And same thing goes if you're using spreadsheets. You're going to have to go in and type out all of your transactions. Now, if you're using a budgeting app, make sure to go and review all of your recent transactions to ensure that they were categorized correctly. Oftentimes, those budgeting apps just kind of take the liberty to say, hey, we think this was a restaurant, when really it was buying a pair of shoes. So just make sure that each expense is actually categorized appropriately. Now, I personally set a budget meeting for myself once a week. I do this on Thursday mornings typically, and it becomes extremely challenging to get back into budgeting if you're not regularly doing these meetings, because the longer that you put it off, the more data you will need to actually sift through. And trust me, this past month for myself was one of the busiest that I've ever experienced. And I went 3 weeks basically in a row where I wasn't able to sit down and do our budget. And I was only able to like do a few transactions here and there. And so after that third time of missing it, I knew that it was going to be terrible to get back into my budget to update it. So one night while my husband was out playing pickleball and the kids were down for bed, I spent probably like 2 hours updating our budget. And it was such a pain because I would rather have been like watching a show or something. So this is literally the worst. I personally love taking tons of notes on our budget to remind myself exactly why we spent the money the way we did. And it's so difficult to think back a month prior to figure out why we spent $50 at Walmart, or, we paid mom $100 to reimburse her for something. What was that? I totally forget. But when I'm keeping up with my budget week after week, then it's really quick, super easy to go through just that 1 week's worth of expenses. And it honestly takes me less than 30 minutes. So keep up with your budget meetings. Tip number 3 is to plan ahead. Planning ahead makes budgeting more successful, but it's probably the hardest part, even for me as an experienced budgeter. I think one of the biggest reasons that planning ahead becomes so essential for budgeting when your life is just crazy busy is because it helps to eliminate the guesswork that often brings stress when your life is just chaotic. So when you're prepared for future expenses, you're less likely to make impulsive decisions or resort to using a credit card or, using debt to make purchases. So if you're trying to learn how to plan ahead better, I'd say the 2 ways that I've found to be the most helpful in this area are, 1, doing a brain dump of all of our irregular expenses for the year and putting it all in one place. That way, when I'm setting up my budget for each month, I can quickly glance and see all the major things that we need to plan for in that month, but also all the things that we need to start thinking ahead for in the coming months. The second thing is to sort of think through all of the events for the upcoming week while I'm doing my weekly budget meeting. This has been super helpful for things like food planning. I'll take a note on the events where meals are provided for that week, such as like church events or dinner with friends at their house. And then I'll think through all the meals that we need to still plan for, and then check our kitchen to see what we have, and then base the rest of our meal planning off of that for the week ahead, if that makes sense. The last tip is to automate. Automate your finances as much as possible. Set up your bills to be on auto pay so you don't have to remember and then forget about those bills when life gets busy. This is one thing that I was super grateful for while we were in the hospital, because I didn't have to worry about rent going unpaid or getting a late fee for not paying our water bill on time. So you can also set up and automate transfers between your bank accounts in order to automate things like your savings. So just make it as easy on yourself as possible by automating. Find ways to make managing your money easier so you don't have to think too much about it when you're in the thick of the busy season. So in this video, we have explored how to prioritize your budget even during the most chaotic seasons of life. Remember, budgeting isn't just about tracking expenses, it's about aligning your finances with your values and goals by making money tracking easy, setting regular budget meetings for yourself, planning ahead, and automating your finances. You can create a sustainable and effective budgeting system that supports your family and also honors God. Don't let a busy lifestyle derail your financial well-being. Take action today and start creating a budget that works for you. And remember, you're not alone in this journey. We're here to support you every step of the way. If you're looking for more added support, I'd love for you to join us in our free monthly budgeting workshops. You can sign up for the next month's workshop in the description box below.